Who needs a low noise floor these days anyway? It is so overrated. Welcome to QRM.
From the N0 APX Ham Shack in southwestern Missouri and the N4 BFR Ham Shack in Metro Atlanta, welcome to episode 1 of QRM. I'm your host, Andy, N0 APX. I'm the product manager at World Radio League. And with me is my co-host, Professor Jim, N4 BFR from Ham Radio Prep. Say hi, Jim.
Hi, I am the lead instructor for Ham Radio Prep. That's my title.
All right, sounds good. And you do a great job of it, too.
Thank you.
Absolutely. So today, we're glad to have Jim not just as our co-host, but also as our guest for today. He shared some exciting news with me recently about a new space mission involving amateur radio, so we'll get into that in a little bit. But Jim, do you want to share a little bit about your background with us, how you got into ham radio?
You bet. So I have been a ham since 2008. I can tell that because I have it engraved in a sign just above my head. Been a ham since 2008, extra a couple of years later. I got into it, just new hobby. I was listening to shortwave and discovered that every time I looked up something for shortwave, I found a link that said, "Hey, want to get your ham radio license and take a practice test now?" And I took a practice test and I passed the practice test with no study for technician. So
Awesome.
went on, eventually got my extra, and I got my extra because I like to travel with ham radio. So I did some operating from cruise ships and went down to the Caribbean and those kind of things. So I've operated from some different places, but now I use it to help teach and do VE stuff, and it's a lot of fun. So if you think of ham radio as an inch wide and a mile deep, I'm more inch wide than I am mile deep on anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And so when did you
inch deep.
Yeah. when did you get started with ham radio prep and teaching the courses?
So at the end of 2021, I answered an ad that said they were looking for people to do some writing with I think it was worded as like mad meme skills with a Z. And well, I didn't have mad meme skills, but I knew I could write because I've written other stuff before in my careers. So I said, well, I'll throw them a note and see if they're interested. And they brought me on. I started writing, just dropped me in the middle of the general course to write lessons for that, and went through that. And then after that, I would hey, let's rewrite the extra. So I started doing that. And James said, why don't you try being on camera? And I tried being on camera, and the rest is history after almost 3 years now.
That's awesome. Yeah. Fun fact, I actually, before I ever joined the team at World Radio League, I actually took your general course and passed on the first try. What is there? I think 35 questions on that, 35 out of 35.
Yes, sir.
And I would not have done that without your course. I wouldn't have got that highest score. But anyway,
awesome.
They're really good lessons over there.
I do VE stuff, and I just had a VE session last Sunday.
Nice.
We had a bunch of people come in. Somebody came in and started off with technician. He's like, I'm going to do technician to extra today. I'm like, I've had people say that before. I'm like, sure, good. Sorry, something beeping here in my shack.
Oh, you're
I'm
good.
like, sure, good for you. Good luck on that. Hope it works out for you. And sure enough, they did. And at the end, he goes, yeah, and I studied with ham radio prep. Thanks a lot.
Nice.
Like, oh, cool.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Do you have like a site or a social media account where you post when you're going to have those VE sessions and where you're going to have them?
Yeah, so
we can drop that in the show notes if you'd like. Yeah.
Yeah, at atlantave.org.
Okay, atlantave.org. We can get that in there. All right, and so not only are you an amateur radio enthusiast, but like me, you're also a space enthusiast. So we're going to be, yeah, we're going to be getting into some of that here in just a little bit. Uh, Looks like you even have a SpaceX countdown timer behind you.
Okay, I got to explain this.
Yeah.
So I am a nerdy space guy. Before I started with ham radio prep, I found this sign. I'm going to try and zoom in on it a little bit to make it so people can see it a little bit better. So I found this old sign that used to get used for. Nobody needs to see my head that big. So this sign was an old airport gate sign. Right back in the 80s, you go up to the gate and they'd put in LED, going
That's
to
awesome.
Dayton, next flight delayed 2 hours kind of thing. And I'm like, I found it for $100 in a antique shop, and I'm like, I could do something with this. Brought it home, thought about it, built it into this SpaceX departure board, which right now I'm showing Flight Test 7, which was the one that just happened this week, and rapid
Okay.
unscheduled discussion, rapid
Disassembly?
unscheduled disassembly
Yeah.
inquiry because it did not do well.
Yeah,
But also
absolutely.
behind me, I keep something called ISS Above, which tracks the International Space Station and shows
nice.
videos from the station. You can see there
That's
that
incredible.
shows next pass for me and where that'll be if I want to work the ISS.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's incredible. Yeah, there is a lot of overlap between space enthusiasts and amateur radio enthusiasts.
Oh,
In
absolutely.
a lot of different areas, and we're going to get into one of those today. First of all, let's go through what's new in our departments here at World Radio League and Ham Radio Prep. So first of all, we've got this weekend. That's actually today, as we're recording this podcast. We've got the NAQP single sideband. So that's going on today. And then next weekend we've got the big contest we've all been prepping for, the big event, Winter Field Day. It's not technically a contest, but we've partnered with the Winter Field Day crew this year to kind of turn some elements into more of a contest. We're gonna have a live scoreboard, a leaderboard. We're gonna have all kinds of live data streaming in. Hopefully we can even maybe do a live stream during that contest, and that'll be visible on our page, worldradioleague.com. Of course, we'll drop that link into the show notes, but go over there and sign up for an account if you don't have one. It's totally free. Enroll in the contest, totally free. You don't have to pay anything at all. We have some paid tiers, but right now it's they gain. If you're trying to upload a whole bunch of ADIF files or really large ADIF files, it gives you a little bit more access to do that. But other than that, all our basic logging, all our contesting, all that stuff's totally free. So go sign up, worldradioleague.com, and enroll in Winter Field Day. We're super excited about that. We've been working on that really hard to make something really, really incredible. We're gonna
It should
have
be a blast. Y'all have I see behind the scenes what goes on. Although I'm not a
absolutely
huge part of the work on World Radio League, but y'all have just been going crazy getting the stuff ready for Winter Field Day. Very impressive that the work y'all have done. Including there was a big all hands meeting the other day just to do beta testing and log testing. So that was a lot of fun. I got to participate in that a little. And,
that was a lot of fun. Yeah,
everybody in the company's into it.
Yeah, absolutely. We went all in. We went hard on that morning doing testing. But if you've participated in any of our contests in the past, you know that we kind of have a limited scoring system. Well, for Winter Field Day, we've really amped that up, pulled out all the stops. We're matching their scoring system, so you'll have all your objectives that you can check off. This year, they've changed the rules a little bit. Your objectives, the number of objective points that you get, you multiply that against your final score. That's all. That's all baked in. You just have a list of check boxes. You can check off what objectives you've completed. So really awesome there. So other than that, I think that's the primary updates we have from World Radio League today. Jim, anything new going on over at Ham Radio Prep?
Sure, we've always got something going on. It's a lot of fun that way. Um, we have been working on a course. So um, we one of the first courses that got created for ham radio prep was a course called Baofeng Basics, and the idea was if you had the UV5R, this was a place you could come in, learn to program memories and those kind of things. So we decided in the fall that we wanted to blow that out a little bit and do more with it. So we changed Baofeng Basics to Ham Radio Basics. And now it's more than just how do I program a radio, although you can learn the UV5R and one of the entry level Yaesu radios. But we've been adding lessons to this. And it includes things now like how do I do MCOM? How do I go to and do a Parks on the Air activation? So we really felt like there was people who wanted a little more curated idea of I have my license, what can I do? And we're slowly building that out with some lessons that won't teach you everything in detail on working HF, but once you watch the lesson, you'll get a really good idea of if it interests you or not. So we're doing that now. We got a bunch of lessons up there. I just this week recorded a lesson that we'll be editing on getting started with Morse code. We'll get getting started with satellites coming up and getting started with emergency communications. All those will go into the Ham Radio Basics course here shortly. And then our boss James has been making videos as well. The latest video we've published is how to get a vanity call sign. So N0APX and N4BFR are both vanity call signs. You and I have been through the process. Our boss James went through the process. He got N0 WRL for World Radio League, and he kind of wanted to share everything that goes on in the process. So there's a new video. You can find it on our YouTube channel, or you can go to hamradioprep.com/guides and look for the guide to getting a vanity call sign, and that'll give you all the info you need. So those are the newest, latest, greatest things we're working on our side of the shop.
That's awesome. Yeah, that those videos, yeah, they're coming out really well. And that Ham Radio Basics course, that one's really coming together. I've been kind of involved from afar with that one a little bit, kind of been seeing the inside process of that one. That one's really coming together really nicely. Yeah.
You've definitely helped a little. It's kind of a balance, right? I kind of go look at the logbook and say, hey, you know what? This could really use this. And you come over here and you say, hey, you know what? This could really use this. It's a nice collaboration.
Absolutely. Yeah, I failed to mention on the World Radio League side, we do have a couple of new videos. One of them is just a quick guide how to create your account. So if you haven't created an account yet, just go over, find our how-tos playlist, or you can just search for the video. Run it. I think it's the second to last one released. How to create your World Radio League account. So take a look at that one. It's only like a minute and a half long. The other one is James just released one, I believe, on introduction to World Radio League. So he just basically walks through the whole program, just a quick rundown of everything. Really good one there. Take a look at that. And then we've got one in the works right now for World Radio League. We're calling it How to POTA. It's kind of a two-part video is what we're aiming for. This one is How to POTA activating, and then hopefully soon we'll be doing the How to POTA hunting. So that one's coming together really well. Had a really nice POTA activation in the snow, and was able to record that on a snow day. So that one's gonna be a lot of fun. That was really fun to put together. So, absolutely. So, I believe that's all of our updates. So we're gonna go through this new space mission involving amateur radio. We're going to kind of discuss a little bit about how amateur radio has been involved in space exploration throughout the last few decades, and then we're also going to give a few tips on how if you want to get involved with some amateur radio in space events, those kinds of things, we'll be discussing that towards the end of our main topic. So we're gonna take a quick break, and for our to pay our bills here, and then we'll be back right after that. So stay tuned. This episode of the QRM podcast is brought to you by Ham Radio Prep. With extensive video and text courses for all U.S. amateur license levels, Ham Radio Prep is the best way to study for your license. Their unique bite-sized approach makes lesson retention faster and easier than ever. Sign up today at hamradioprep.com. This episode is also brought to you by World Radio League. Whether you're a brand new ham or a seasoned operator, World Radio League is the right logbook for you. Striking the balance between functionality and ease of use, World Radio League is the modern logbook for all hams. Sign up for free today at worldradioleague.com. All right, we're back, and today we're going to be talking about a brand new space mission. I believe it's called Fram 2. Is that right, Professor Jim?
Yeah, the Fram 2 space mission. It is a commercial space mission. So if you've heard of missions like Axiom, this is similar to that. The difference really here is that with Fram 2, they're going polar. So most space missions go basically around the equator in a kind of elliptical format. These folks want to do a mission that goes around the pole, so from south to north or north to south. So that's what's coming up in Frame 2 mission. They're going to be doing this. I think they're tentatively scheduled for early March right now, but all this stuff always moves.
That's awesome. So, basically, they're going to be they've come up with a really exciting ham radio aspect to this mission, and really, Jim, I just wanted you to kind of just walk us through that and kind of explain to us how that's all going to work. So I'll turn it over to you.
More than happy to. So, the Fram 2 mission is 4 people from different parts of the world that have gotten together to do this, to get on a Dragon spacecraft and spend 3 to 5 days in polar orbit. One of the people on the mission is a ham named Rebecca Rogie. And Rebecca, no, I'm sorry, I mispronounced her name. How dare I do that? Rebecca Rogie. Rebecca is a ham, and she decided that she wanted to do some ham radio activities from space. So she's going to take a radio up with her in the Dragon capsule and send out some images, some slow scan TV images on 70 centimeters as they pass over the Earth and allow people to download them. Now, here's the really interesting part, I think, is that she wants to make this a STEM event, science, technology, engineering, and math event. So what she's done is she's worked with the group ARIS, Amateur Radio on the International Space Station, because they do these educational things regularly with astronauts. And they're doing kind of a contest. And so the idea is that if you are 16 to 25 years old, involved with an educational institution, and it could be a high school, college, or a museum, those kind of things, you can form a team with other groups around the world. And why you want to do that is because the way that these orbits are going to go, you're not going to be able to get every SSTV image on every pass. So you're going to need to work with other people to do that. There's going to be a total of 12 images sent. So you and your teammates in a team of 3 to 5 people are going to be encouraged to capture those images, put them together, because they'll be, of the 12 images will be 3 puzzles. Put the puzzle together, and if you can identify the place on the Earth, like say they had 4 pictures and it turned in and you looked at it and it was Easter Island. You can say, hey, we got these 4 pictures. We think it's Easter Island. You submit it. The top groups to do that are going to get QSL cards, which sounds, I don't want a QSL card, right? Well, they're going to have space flown stickers on them. So you're actually going to get a QSL card with a sticker that was flown in space. So that's really cool as a way to do that. Now, you don't obviously have to be an educator to capture these images. I know the Eris team is hoping that other groups do that as well. The one thing that they're asking is because it's a contest, save your images until after the mission and don't share them on social media and those kind of things. So the contest can really take a big effect. But it should be a lot of fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm going to try and capture some of those SSTV images myself.
That's really incredible. So they're kind of combining not only the space enthusiast and the amateur radio side of things, but also kind of combining that with some more geolocation enthusiast vibes as well. That's really neat. So
Absolutely,
what?
those are
Yeah.
all the fun combinations.
So what kind of equipment are they going to be using? Like what bands can we pick those up on?
So far, they've said it's going to be a transmission on 70 centimeters, so it'll probably be between 435 and 440 megahertz. They haven't published the gear that they'll be using in the Dragon capsule. Just they've said she's taking a radio up and she'll do some transmission. So we don't have all that in detail, but we do know kind of where we need to listen, and that's going to be in that 435 to 440 megahertz range.
Okay. Okay. So is it what's the do they have any specific things that they're trying to accomplish other than the ham radio aspect of things on the space mission? Anything in particular that you know of?
So not from the station, but from the Dragon capsule. They're not docking with the station in this mission. This is the first human spaceflight to polar regions. So part of the reasons they named it Fram 2 was because there was a famous Fram 1 mission that sailed to the polar region. So they're trying to kind of follow in those footsteps. So they've got a filmmaker and some cinematographer, other polar adventurers, and like I said, Rabea, who's a PhD student from Norway.
That's
And so
fantastic.
they're going to be obviously enjoying those kind of things as they go around the Earth.
That's awesome. Okay, so what? What kind of? So if I was wanting to pick up those signals, what kind of gear would I want to use?
Sure. So I mean, it's kind of a two-part question. If you wanted to just grab an HT and go outside and tune into the frequency, you would probably have a good chance of hearing a little bit of a bleep or a blip from the transmission as it went by. If you really wanted to dedicate yourself to trying to get these images, you do need some robust satellite SSTV gear. So the stuff that the team is recommending, and I'm looking at, if you go to the Fram to Ham website, which is Fram the number 2 ham.com, there is a user guide down at the bottom that explains to the teams who want to do this kind of what kind of gear is recommended. So they're looking at a high quality receiver with 1 kilohertz tuning steps. So when you're on 430 megahertz, you have to deal with the Doppler effect. And for those who don't remember what that is, consider the sound a train makes when it goes by you, right? It's high pitched noise and it gets to low pitched noise. So same thing with images. These images are going to change frequency as they come down, and it's more severe on 440. So you're going to have to adjust to that, and 1 kilohertz tuning steps will give you the benefit of doing that. When you get into these higher frequencies, you want things like lower loss coax. So more expensive LMR 400 kind of coax is good. A preamplifier is something that they're recommending because some of these passes can be very low, right? So if you've ever done satellite work, it's judged by how high the pass is, and sometimes the ISS is going to pass 90 degrees over your head. So stick your arm straight up and point up, and it's going to go right above you. But sometimes it's only going to go 10 or 15 degrees above the horizon as you're going. So to catch those passes, you need more sensitive gear because the ship is further away, and the transmissions will be a little more challenging to get because of potentially the orientation of the ship as it's flying by as well. So, is the antenna on the ship pointed up, pointed down, pointed sideways, pointed away from you? All those are considerations that hams have dealt with before. So, if you we can talk a little bit in a minute about how kind of it was dealt with on the shuttle missions. But these are the things that they're talking about as far as equipment and being able to do that. So pulling in that signal, I mentioned a preamplifier, a multi-element Yagi antenna. In order to kind of just get focused on that antenna and use all the benefits you can to pull in the signal. If you can mount those to a computerized azimuth and elevation tool, so let the computer follow that and track that mission for you as opposed to trying to do it handheld, that's another benefit. Having tracking software, so you'll want to be able to pull things up and say, all right, when is this going to be overhead or 10 degrees or wherever it's going to be, and be able to hit that timing right. And then it'll be an SSTV transmission. I believe they have said. Did they say what mission? What kind of? Um, uh, they didn't say yet, but they it'll be an SSTV transmission, so you'll be need gear to pick that up and record that. So recorder, an SSTV decoder, all those kind of things are needed. So just to recap: receiver, low loss coax, preamplifier, multi-element Yagi antenna, azimuth and elevator rotator, computer running software for antenna control, and computer decoding of the SSTV image. For the groups that are trying to win this, that's probably going to be the optimum setup for them.
Absolutely, and we'll drop some links in the show notes to maybe some different SSTV apps and programs you can use.
So the good news, if you go to that Fram to Ham website, there is a document called the user guide. Section 4 is all about what kind of station you want. Okay. So that'll be helpful. But yeah, we should drop some SSTV links too, because for casual folks, if they have a smaller Yagi and they want to go out handheld and with their radio, they can definitely do that and get some of these images.
Yeah, or at least absolutely. Try. Yeah, definitely. And in fact, we might even drop at the end of this podcast, we might even drop an SSTV audio signal in the end. We might have a little challenge around that if users want to try, or if listeners want to try to decode that and send it in to us. So we'll see what we can come up with there. So
I know we're new, but can I try sharing screen real quick?
Absolutely, but just real quickly here, how do we know when the passes are, where they're going to be? Where do we find that information?
Okay, so from what I'm told, the Fram 2 mission will have an app that will tell you when you can follow them. But generally, what happens for any spaceborne object is something called Keplerian elements are created. And that's basically a computer model of their path that can be put into software. And you can then go, okay, I'm at X location. When is it going to be overhead? And the computer will translate the Keplerian elements into the location and times of your passes.
Okay, absolutely. And yeah, you can go ahead and share your screen there.
All right, so I've got this. I have this document, Fram to Ham document up, and here is what they're showing.
Here, let me add you to the. There we go.
There we go. So here's the document, and here's what they're showing as far as the recommendation for a station. So 12-volt power supply into the receiver. Receiver's interfaced with a computer, which is also interfaced with the antenna rotor control, preamp, a nice robust circularly polarized Yagi that can move in X and Y and Z axes in order
Yeah,
to capture that
absolutely. Yeah,
capture
and
that as it goes over the head. So hopefully it's a good picture.
For our audio listeners who aren't watching this on YouTube, we'll drop links to all of this in the show notes down below. Jim, if you could drop a link to that actual specific dock in there, just the recommended station dock there, that would be great. So when is this mission going to be taking place?
The mission is scheduled to go the first sometime in early March right now. Now, I wouldn't make hotel reservations at Kennedy Space Center based on that information quite yet. Because these are all flexible and the commercial missions sometimes are moved around because of crew missions or tests or those kind of things, weather. So keep your eye open. I use a site like nextspaceflight.com. I find that to be pretty accurate to tell me when something's going to come up next and when I can get on and go watch something.
Okay.
If you're thinking about going to watch a launch, it's really cool. I've watched a bunch right now, but I always give it an extra few days. So they're never going to launch early, but they definitely could launch late. So if say the launch is on a Tuesday, I might stay till Friday, just to give the flexibility,
just in case,
the chance to see a launch. Now that doesn't completely mean you'll see it. I've been, disappointed a few times, but I have had a chance to watch a bunch of launches down there.
Great, that's great. So you said this is going in a Dragon capsule, so that obviously that will be on a Falcon 9 rocket, a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket?
Yes.
That's great.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Falcon 9 rocket out of Kennedy Space Center to, let me see if I'm going to.
Do you know which pad they're going to launch off of?
I was just pulling up the information on next spaceflight. They say Space Launch Complex 40 or 39A. They didn't say specifically which one.
Okay. Yeah.
At this point, but yeah, Falcon 9. Nothing more. No more detail. Oh, they're going to be in Crew Capsule 207 Resilience.
Okay. All right. Well, next week on Space Talk, no.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, boy, I could get into the weeds on that stuff. That really interests me. But yeah, so we are discussing amateur radio. So amateur radio. This is not the first time it's gone to space by far. So So I know it's been on the space station. It's been in some shuttle missions. Why don't you tell us a little bit about some of those?
All right. So the first amateur radio in space was actually back in 1960. And it was called Oscar, Orbital Satellite Carrying Amateur Radio. And an Oscar satellite was launched not long after Sputnik as a secondary payload to another rocket mission. And through that organization of people coming together to do that, a group was formed called AMSAT, Amateur Radio Satellite Group, or Radio Amateur Satellite Corporation. I don't have the exact name, but that's basically what it is, right? It's a group of hams who are interested in ham radio via satellites and operate that way. So that group has been operating since the 60s. Well, back in the 70s, there was a mission called Skylab, and Skylab was the first space station, and scheduled to be on Skylab was a guy named Owen Garriott. He was a astronaut, came on later after the Neil and Buzz group. He actually, part of his claim to fame was he was the second man to talk to somebody on the moon, because he came in to be Capcom after Charlie Duke called that famous, "Oh, we're all breathing again here." So second man to talk to somebody on the moon, but he was an amateur radio guy, and he used to talk to his dad every night or every weekend on amateur radio, and they'd have conversations back and forth between Texas and Oklahoma. So Owen said, "Hey, why don't we try taking a radio up?" And it didn't work out for Skylab, but Owen also got assigned to some space station missions, and he said, "Let's really work on this now." And they all worked together, and they came up with it, and a team of folks from Motorola Amateur Radio Club and a group of folks who were hams and employees of NASA, KSC, Johnson Space Center, up at Goddard Space Flight Center in where is that place? That's up in Greenbelt, Maryland. They all kind of got together and put this together. And Owen went up and made 200 plus contacts in December 1st, 1984 was the very first contact that he made from Space Shuttle Columbia. And he used a Motorola handheld and an antenna they made that folded down and went into the window of the shuttle. So nobody's driving, they can cover something in the window, and an antenna went in there. The first ham to make contact with Owen was a guy named Lance Collister. And what made Lance so successful was his focus of ham radio was Earth, Moon, Earth. So he had these giant antennas that he could point at the shuttle as it went overhead and make contact with Owen. So Lance was first, and then Owen went on to make a bunch of contacts, about 200 with folks on the ground. And it started and continued a mission called SAREX. So Shuttle Amateur Radio Experiment. Went up a bunch more times, did SSTV, both sending and receiving, did some Morse code stuff, and went up on the Mir space station for Russia. So there was a bunch of different things that went on with the shuttles. Well, eventually the space station gets built, and a group forms called ARIS, Amateur Radio on the International Space Station. And it's a lot of these people who worked on the SAREX missions. And what they said is they went to NASA and they said, "Hey, let's put a radio on the ISS as a more permanent thing to kind of keep extending this SAREX mission," because SAREX had been really successful talking to student groups on the ground and engaging them in science and the science of radio. So ARIS got permission. They started. They were the first educational payload from the ISS, and the first contact they made with a student group was in December of 2000. So we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of that. And I'll just add one more thing, is that the amateur radio on the ISS is not just for either the astronauts to play on or to do STEM contacts. It is a secondary or tertiary backup in case communications fail with the normal TDRS and other communications. So ham radio, if all else fails, it's there ready on the ISS.
Absolutely. And
how's
they
that
don't...
for a semi-short history lesson?
That's fantastic. That's really fantastic. So some of that, quite a bit of that stuff, I'd never really heard that much about before. So I'm glad to learn quite a bit of that. So of course they have an active, at least semi-active VHF. I think is it VHF, UHF, or is it just a VHF station up there? How common is it for them to use that outside of scheduled events like ARIS events, those type of events?
So there's actually two radios on the space station. They're both Kenwood, I'm going to get it wrong, but I'm going to try, TH710s. And they can do 2 meter and 70 centimeter. One is in the service module in the Russian segment, and one is in the Columbus module. They each have individual antennas. So if you try and work the ARIS repeater, that's the Columbus module radio, and that's 70 centimeters up and 2 meters down. If you try and work the ARIS digital radio, which right now is set for packet that's 145.825 up and down for APRS. That is the same radio. That service module radio is what gets used for their SSTV events as well.
Okay.
So Eris has other capabilities on the space station. They have higher frequency capabilities, L band, S band capabilities that are not currently in use. But they announced last year at Orlando that they were sending up a unit called Ham TV that will allow the ability to stream video during Eris events from the Columbus module. So
Oh, that's incredible.
that they have not announced when that's going to be installed yet, but it's up there, ready to get put in and ready to go and ready to send video down during student contact. So that should
I'm
be
looking
fun.
forward
That's
to
going to
that.
be
That'd
like,
be great.
I can't remember if it's, I have to look up exactly what frequencies it uses, but it's up there in the gigahertz range somewhere.
That's great. That's fantastic. So I know they schedule quite a few Eris events for student groups, that type of thing. But I know every once in a while, I guess it's pretty rare, but every once in a while, one of the astronauts that has an amateur radio license will just get on the air. Does that happen pretty frequently, or how does that normally work?
So yeah, yes, it does. So student contacts, 1 to 3 a week. There were 111 last year with schools around the world. As far as they call them casual crew contacts. So it's very dependent on the crew members and what they like. So I'll just point to a couple of people up there now. Suni Williams, Don Pettit. Don Pettit's got his ham license. He does some contacts with students, but he is first and foremost a photographer. So pretty much, if you follow him on X or other places, every waking minute he's not doing some work that he's employed to do as an astronaut. He's trying to take pictures. So he's not picking up the ham radio and doing that. But we have had hams in the past who have done that on a casual basis. There were a couple during STS 71. If I look back, there's a ham called Kel Lindgren. He did field day a couple of years ago from the ISS, and he actually brought up a little field day flag and flew it and did operations there. So it is super dependent on the astronaut who's up there and what their interests are. Now, I can tell you it hasn't been that popular in the last few months, but I can also tell you that I know of a guy on the crew schedule who's going to go up in the next couple of missions. And he is super into ham radio. So I would expect that, much like Don Pettit spends his evenings and weekends taking pictures, I would not be surprised if this guy spends his evening and weekends just at the radio making contacts like crazy. So it's all kind of catch as catch can, but hopefully pretty soon we will have a little more opportunity to actually work a crew member.
Yeah, absolutely. So you mentioned your ISS tracker on the wall behind you. You mentioned some repeaters on the ISS, and I know there's the ISS has a couple of repeaters, but there are also several satellites that have repeaters on them. How do you go about working those repeaters?
So it's relatively similar. If you're let's pick the ISS repeater or a satellite with an FM repeater. It's relatively similar to what you would do with pretty much one exception. So you're gonna set a receive frequency just like you would for a repeater. You're going to set a CTCSS tone. For the ISS, it's 67 hertz. That just kind of says, hey, this reception is intended for this device. The difference is you're probably going to set a uplink frequency instead of using an offset like -6 megahertz. You're going to set separate uplink frequency. So you'll use a dual band radio, and one radio will have the downlink frequency and one radio will have the uplink frequency. So you transmit on the uplink, you listen on the downlink, and hopefully you're making contacts. The other big piece is antenna. Yes, you can definitely hear the ISS with a stock antenna on a stock radio. And somewhere, I'll drop a link in the notes. I have a short video of me listening to the ISS on a QRZ1 radio as it passes over the head with just a little handheld. So you can listen. The ISS is a little more challenging to transmit with just a handheld and stock antenna, because a lot of people try and use it. That's kind of the one that everybody wants to get, right? So you probably want an antenna that's going to give you a little more gain. That's where these handheld Yagis come in, where you're going to get some additional gain on 2 meter and 440 and connect that up, and you'll use an app that says, all right, the space station is at 45 degrees above you or 90 degrees above you, or now it's back down to 45. You'll use an app to track that as you pass, and you'll point that antenna at the station, and that will give you a little bit more bang for your buck than just your 5 watts out from your radio.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'll find a link here and drop it in the show notes. But there's a young amateur radio operator that recently built a tracker, like a desktop tracker unit that
awesome.
It manned their antenna. It was a really neat project to follow. I'm trying to find. I'll find that link, drop it in the show notes. But they wanted to talk to an astronaut in space. This is before they even really heard of amateur radio, and their dad told them, well, you can do that with amateur radio. So that sent them down this whole rabbit hole. They got their license. They built this whole desktop tracker unit with an antenna, and they finally made a contact with the astronauts aboard the space station. So it was a really neat project. I'll drop a link to that YouTube channel in the show notes. But if you're interested in kind of some of the more in-depth equipment that you can build and things, then you can check that out for sure. So and if I'm not mistaken, one other thing that the ISS does is once or twice a year don't they send SSTV transmissions down once or twice a year?
Yeah. So yes. Right now, there have been 3 in the last 4 months or so.
Okay.
They are not scheduled really long in advance, but they do like to do it in periods when there's not a lot of student contacts or other activity on the ISS. So if there's a break in, say, the Christmas holiday break was a good one, right? Yeah. Not a lot of schools in, so not a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
NASA typically doesn't schedule spacewalks and those kind of things, so there's no interruptions there, and that's typically when they do it. So not any announced at this point, but yeah, that's another way. That's another thing you can do. So they'll turn off the APRS radio and they'll turn on SSTV transmissions, and you can, like I said, listen with a handheld. If you're into just software defined radios, you can listen with one of those and capture pictures as well. It's really cool to see those kind of things. The most recent event was Eris showing holiday pictures and pictures from this year in history, and we can include a link to where you can see all the SSTV pictures that have been sent by the ISS.
Nice. Okay, yeah. And then also you spoke of that SDR dongle. I think the RTL SDR dongle is a pretty common one. We'll put a link to that where you can take a look at that. What we're talking about there. That's a really neat piece of kit. I actually recently just picked one of those up. So. And the nice thing about the Fram 2 ham mission, the ISS SSTV signals, you don't have to have a license to participate in any of that. You can just get a radio and listen. That's all you have to do. Just get the software It'll send a digital signal out, and your software will just decode that signal into a picture. It's really fun. So, and of course SSTV. I don't believe I've received any of the space transmissions, but I have received some transmissions like on 20 meters, some SSTV transmissions. It's a really fun thing to do, and you can get a mobile app.
14230, right?
Yeah, 14230, 14232, right around that area. You can get a mobile app to decode those and send them if you're transmitting SSTV. You can get a desktop app, of course, to decode them. So, pardon me. Yeah, it's really fun, and like I said, we'll drop links to some of those apps and softwares in the show notes. All right, so that pretty much wraps up our discussion about the Fram 2 ham mission and amateur radio in space. Like I said, we're going to drop an SSTV signal at the end of this podcast. If you can decode that signal and you can send that picture to us, send it to us at we'll put a link in here. Go to community.worldradioleague.com and create an account, and over there if you haven't already, and just send it directly to N0APX. Just tag at N0APX, however you send that, and the first person to send me the decoded picture will get what should we send him, Jim? I think we can send him a couple of our new Morse code stickers, and maybe some what's I think Ham Radio Prep has the phonetic alphabet stickers.
We got some phonetic alphabet stickers. Yeah. We'd probably find a Ham Radio Prep sticker or two.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll send you some stickers, and so yeah, just send that to me at community.worldradioleague.com. Tag at N0APX. That way I'll see it. So, in fact, I'm going to create a new channel on there, and we're going to drop a link to that in the notes here. I'm going to create a new channel, QRM podcast channel. Just go straight to that channel. Like I said, I'll drop a link. Go straight to that channel and tag me and send me the picture. First person to do that will get some stickers in the mail. So, yeah. Besides that, what do you have going on in your shack these days, Jim? What's anything exciting coming along?
New shack stuff. I've mostly been working on shack infrastructure, so internet, network, those kind of things, computers. I'm getting a newer 3D printer, so I'm looking forward to printing some ham radio stuff with that. I don't think I can show you something I printed here a few minutes. I'll get up and get it in a second, but yeah, there's a lot of handy 3D print things to do.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
With ham radio. So I've been doing that, and I'm probably getting ready to work Winter Field Day. And some of the other contests as well.
Nice.
So, and then I'll pack it all up and get ready to go to Orlando Hamcation coming up the first full weekend of February. So it's not that far off now.
Yeah, absolutely. So if you don't mind me asking, which 3D printer are you going to be getting?
Oh, let's see. Let me look here and I'll tell you.
I've got one of the Ender 3 V2 Neos, I believe, currently. I would love to get one of the Bamboo Labs printers one of these days, but the Ender 3 was just the budget option.
Yep, I jumped up to kind of like the next level beyond the Ender 3, because I don't. Not ready to invest bamboo money in it. It's the Creality K1. So nice. One of the things that I have trouble in my particular setups is getting the leveling done, and this had auto leveling. So I thought, okay, if I'm gonna do something different, let me get something that's gonna help me with that. So
absolutely,
looking forward to that.
That's fantastic. Yeah. So, yeah.
You say what you're going to do, and I'll show you what I 3D printed.
Okay, absolutely. So yeah, in the coming up, we have Winter Field Day. Hoping to work some Winter Field Day. I've been kind of coming up with some designs in my head for a new dipole antenna. And funny, Jim was just talking about 3D printing. I'm actually hoping to maybe do possibly a video screen recording around my design, and then 3D print a new antenna mount and try that out. Maybe post that on a personal channel. But that's something that I'm hoping to be working on soon. Other than that, yeah, Winter Field Day coming up. And Jim, you said you were working on shack infrastructure. I've been working on shack structure. So
yes, you have.
This is a brand new N0 APX shack. So
Looks
really
good.
excited to finally be moved in here and use it for not only a ham shack but a podcast studio, and it's come in quite handy already. So
When you've had yours for 10 plus years, it'll look cluttered like mine.
I'm sure it will. Yeah, and you said you had a 3D printed object there you wanted to show us.
So this is by KA2DEW, Delta Echo Whiskey. He made this piece for managing your cables on your tower. So you 3D print this. This leg gets mounted to your tower leg, and then you can put 4 cables in, so you have some nice cable management. I like to do the wiring management stuff. So if I'm trying to show this, and it's probably not going to work, but yeah, tower mount goes
awesome.
here, cable goes in like that, and I can run up to 4 of them, and it's got all the slots to run zip ties through, and hopefully it'll make it look nice and pretty. So I printed out 4
incredible.
of these, I think one for every section of my tower, and that should be good.
Great. Can you drop a link to that print in the notes?
I will try and do that. I think I'll see if I can find it again, because this was a few months ago.
Yeah, absolutely, no problem. If you can't find it, no worries.
Yep.
So are you going to be doing any of the live stream for Winter Field Day?
Don't know yet.
Yeah. Same here.
Will,
I'm hoping maybe we can do a little bit of a live stream, at least on Saturday for Winter Field Day. So we'll see. Just stay tuned. Keep an eye out. Jim and I, one of us, or possibly both of us, or maybe James. You might see us doing a Winter Field Day operating live stream. So just keep an eye out for that.
I would be shocked if there wasn't somebody from the Ham Radio Prep World Radio League universe live next weekend.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so this is episode 1 of QRM, so we're just getting things together, but we are going to be creating, of course, some social accounts, so we'll drop the handles for those in the show notes. Go check those out. If you have any questions...
Can I explain why we call it QRM?
Absolutely, go for it.
So if you use the ham radio Q codes, you know that there's 2 Q codes for noise. One is QRN, or QR Nancy, which is native noise, right? It's
atmospheric, yeah.
It's
atmospheric
noise from space or atmosphere or whatever. And then there's QRM, which is man-made noise or intentional noise. So QRM, our intentional noise podcast.
All right, so go check out our socials. Thank you for watching and or listening to episode 1 of QRM. We're super excited about this. Don't have a completely set schedule yet. Hopefully do this possibly once every 2 weeks, once a week, once a month. We're gonna get our schedule figured out, but we'll get that decided, and we're gonna hopefully come up with a pretty regular schedule to get these released. So subscribe, leave a review, share it with anybody you want to share it with. Drop a comment down below if you have any questions, if you want us to cover any specific topics, any topic suggestions, leave them in the comments down below. We'll review those and take those into consideration. Thank you for joining us, and
don't forget, if you're an OM or you just haven't even gotten your license yet, there's more to learn in ham radio, and we'll see you next time.
Absolutely. See you next time. Thanks, Jim.
73.
7-3.